What's up, boys?
Well, I started it.
Oh,
So.
well, it's begun.
No, anyway, it's okay.
Well, yeah, I actually did a podcast thing for my history class last semester that I recorded a podcast with Anthony and Alex, and it basically started like that.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So
We're
just like,
we started it.
They were just like, we started laughing, and I was like, shh, and they're just like, okay, now we got to start over. I'm like, no, one take, we're going, we're done, we started.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice.
So
Basically how it goes. I can add like music and whatever. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Fade something in.
yeah.
Mana.
Yeah, baby.
Anyway. All right. Well, welcome everybody to the podcast that doesn't have a name. We don't have a name for it yet.
That should be the name of the podcast.
Whoa.
Meta.
Place.
Submit your entries on what you think the podcast should be named. We're at RFF on Twitter.
We're not on Twitter.
No.
But
I'll have to take that really
Just
quick.
promote social media that we don't have.
yeah. As just like a general kind of opener, we should point out we tried to start a podcast last year. Like it wasn't exactly last year. It was pretty darn close though. I could probably look up when.
It was close to the end of the school year, so
yeah.
it was
It's about
probably more than a year ago.
Yeah. This podcast is being recorded on May 11th, 2019. So hopefully that dates it just right for when we talk about past tense, future stuff. Anyway, yeah. So last year we tried to start a podcast, didn't end up doing it, and so we made like one episode, and we doubt that'll ever come to fruition. But maybe it will. Like maybe down the line, if people are busy and we need something to put out.
Yeah, have something there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, mostly this podcast is kind of just going to be about us, I guess, as a team, or whatever our position is in relation to Raven Flight Films. All these videos are probably going to go on. They're definitely going to go up on YouTube on the behind the scenes channel, and then as well, we're going to see about getting them on Spotify. So, whatever works best for you, do it.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah. So, yeah, basically we can just start talking about
rambling on something.
So how about Endgame, right? That was crazy, right?
That thing, the thing that we all agreed to not talk about.
That's why it's funny, because I.
Well, yeah, but they don't know that.
Oh.
We said that before we started.
Dang, yeah, you're right.
Everybody who's listening, I'm not sure when this will go out, so they'll like.
Probably won't be too big of a need for.
Yeah, that movie will have
non-spoiler
come out
stuff.
like 2 months ago.
Yeah, probably forever ago.
But no, that's okay. Yeah, I thought Endgame was freaking amazing.
It's really good. Saw it for the first time last night. So
Yeah.
it's funny. My brothers came with me because they were just like, "Yeah, I'm down to see it a second time."
Yeah.
They're all like, "Just like it's worth it." It's
Yeah, I
a good
watched it twice.
Way worth it.
Yeah.
one. Oh,
My problem was I had to pee the entire time.
oh,
And
that
I
ruins
almost
it.
like
checks
gave
out.
myself a kidney stone. I was like the first one in the bathroom after the show ended, and then the last one out.
Oh man, those ones always, that always sucks when you hold it in for a while. Because then when you're done, you're just like you just hurt for a while. You're just like,
Yeah. That was a mistake, but it was worth it.
I've only ever done that to me once, and I never again.
Yeah, just go to the bathroom before, and then you're good.
Yeah.
Or just become a solid like 12-hour-a-day gamer, and like you don't think about doing stuff.
It's true.
It's mainly my thing was just like 3 hours. I can do that. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like no time.
And I mean, like, I don't know, for something as important as Endgame, I could not leave the theater. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I don't know, I left for a 5-minute break in like Shazam when I went to go see Shazam.
Oh, was it good?
I thought it was hilarious. It was
Okay.
funny.
I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Like overall it was okay, but like it was really good for a DC movie. That's
Yeah,
the way they go.
I totally did not recognize that it was a DC movie. I thought it would just be like just a parody superhero movie.
Yeah, I remember looking up some stuff because we were talking about Captain Marvel, me and Tristan, and so we Googled it, and I ended up finding out that kind of a secondary name for Shazam was Captain Marvel. They kind of refer to him as Captain Marvel as well.
Nice.
So I looked it up, and I was just like, yeah, this is all this, and I started reading it, like, no, this isn't right. This isn't Marvel. And they're like, oh, no, it's just a second name for Shazam. And it's like, okay, cool. So
Well, we officially have Raven Flight Films Twitter. There it is.
Oh,
Nice.
sweet.
Yeah.
Man,
There
I
it is.
assume
Man,
I assume the picture is the mic.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing. I was silently, like, not talking and taking a picture of the microphone that we've got set up here. And now we have a Twitter account, so that's Ravenflight Films on Twitter.
Boom.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go and
just
take
like that.
Hit
There it is,
that
folks.
follow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll start posting something, I
Yeah.
assume. I don't know. That's what you do with Twitter, right? You post stuff.
I think so.
Tweet.
We just have to like guiltily put out a tweet like once a month and be
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're still working on it.
Be like, yeah, we're doing stuff.
So it's
Yeah,
happening.
like little tweezers.
tweezers.
Let me
Can we call it tweezers in that context?
I'm down.
And make it
Yeah.
funny, so to speak.
And just have a picture of tweezers.
Perfect.
Well, on that bombshell of us creating a Twitter, that'll be the end of this podcast
Yeah.
for this week. So we're gonna take up.
Okay, we're gone.
That's it. We're done.
Tune in next time for like when we never do anything again.
Yeah. So we're recording this on Saturday. We might not record it every Saturday, but I'm thinking maybe like a good day to release these would be like a Thursday.
That's a pretty good day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Most of the podcasts that I listen to upload stuff on Sunday, just so that everybody has it, like when they go to work on Monday to listen to it, or
That's
like on their
true.
commute. So, and that's normally what I do. So,
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
that works out for me. I don't know if we want to do that, but I guess whoever's listening will find out when, because they'll be listening to it.
That's true.
Yeah. And of course, once you get more episodes, it's more fleshed out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Did either of you have any major problems with Endgame? Like, was there something that totally bugged you?
Not really, honestly.
I thought it was just I came out of it and I was like, this was a masterpiece.
Oh yeah, that one.
It was
I'll
so
watch
good.
that again and again.
Yeah,
Just in the future. Definitely gonna get like the box set if I can, or just each of them
yeah.
eventually.
I thought that I mean, it wasn't meant to be a funny scene, but I thought that the fight between Natasha and Hawkeye was like, on the like the
Yeah,
cliff
no, that
for
was-
the Soul Stone.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious because it was just like, no, let me die. No, let me die. I'm gonna die. I gotta die. No,
Concept
you gotta
behind it.
die.
It was like kind of cheesy, but then you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh
They're
no!
both
And then it gets all serious when it actually starts going down. You're like,
You're like, ugh, yeah.
ugh.
Yeah. Well.
Rather comedic.
Well, while Infinity War was more like they used comedy to like break up the intensity, like
Yeah.
it was kind of the reverse. Like with this thing, like it was just super duper. And like I don't know, it was kind of a funny movie, you know. But then you know you with these really intense parts, you're like, oh no.
As serious as almost the entire film was, like it did pretty good about throwing in some funny parts.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
For real.
Definitely a few things that. Ooh. Now, the whole comments on Captain America's butt. Those was good. It was a good point. But
Of course.
yeah, it's what I go for.
Just oh my gosh, when the hammer starts to like lift up while Thor's getting the crap beat out of him, and Captain America just like you looks over and he's got the shield and the hammer, and you're like, oh my gosh! I started freaking out in the theater. I was like,
So did I.
oh my gosh.
So you're gonna have to edit out these spoilers now.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
it's
We're gonna
not-
issue a spoiler warning. That sucks.
Okay.
Well, it's been 2 weeks, so too bad.
By
For
the
you.
time this comes out, people.
Yeah, this will probably.
That's
you haven't
true.
seen it. You
Be a little
suck,
bit
so
longer.
go watch the movie.
Yeah.
And of course, you can always edit like spoiler warning at the very beginning. Just add your
Yeah,
own little
yeah.
voice clip.
Yeah.
What am I like? I don't know. I'm not like a super duper diehard Marvel fan, or at least like for the movies.
Mm.
But like I really enjoy them, and I feel like Endgame was a masterpiece. Like that's, I mean,
yeah.
everybody that said it's something in Hollywood that's never been done before is absolutely right, because holy crap, that's a. I mean, it's like it's a cinematic universe, you know. It's
They had to bring everything
Big.
together and get it
Yeah, all
all
worked
kind of wrapped
out.
up. Yeah. So that was good.
However, I do have like as not a diehard Marvel fan, but as someone who's like a big fan of the Netflix shows, I was super sad that the Netflix heroes didn't show up for like one
mean-
final thing, because their shows all got canceled, and that makes me super sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least the good ones, the ones that were not so good. I'm like, Okay, good. But
Okay, goodbye.
Is Punisher still going?
no, it's gone.
Oh, rip. How many seasons did it get into that one?
2.
Oh, rip.
Except it's got to be said, Punisher season 2 is awesome.
I got like halfway through the first one, and then I started watching Community, and then I
Game over.
yeah,
Yeah.
I binged that show.
It's one of those ones that you just once you start it, you
Yeah, it's just you're done with everything else in my whole life. I was just like, okay, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah. Community's a good one though, and it's
Yeah.
like basically every other comedy show ever, where the episodes are just short enough to get you sucked in every single time.
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Where you're just like, I'll just watch one more episode, and then like by the time that you've watched like 2 or 3 of them, like an hour has gone by, and you're just like,
Yeah,
it's fine, it's fine.
I don't have anything else planned.
that was the same for me with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm like obsessed with that show.
I've been meaning to start it because I've seen lots of clips and stuff. I'm like, yo, this would be like the best show. I'm
It's
sure
so
I'd love
good.
it.
We get some of the best memes from that show.
It's so good. I
Yeah,
love
those ones are great. I love Holt. What little I've seen.
it. Yeah.
I always look at them like, Captain Holt, you're the greatest.
Yep. Yep. I think all the characters are great in that one.
Oh, they did so well.
What other TV shows or TV show news? They're making Psych the movie 2.
Two.
Oh, I
I
didn't hear
I
about
don't think
that.
I've actually seen the first one. Now I think about it.
It's
all right.
It's good. Yeah,
It's fun.
I liked it.
I need to because I mean, like, I obsessively watched that show. That was like my show for a long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like binge watched what was I think the last one was season 7, right?
I would think so.
Maybe.
It was like 7 or 8 was like the last season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like just kind of binge watched that as soon as it came out on Netflix, and
No, it
then
was
I watched
a-
the musical episode, which was the finale, and I was like, okay, next one, and they're like, there's no more episodes.
That's the last one.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that one. It was a good
Yeah.
one.
See,
And
it
then they
sucks
took it off of
because
Netflix,
yeah, they
and
took
I
it off
was
Netflix.
Yeah, it's like that. I hate that.
I've been meaning to do that for a couple of shows that aren't on Netflix anymore, as go buy like DVD sets of them because Psych is one of those where it's definitely worth it.
Oh, it's
Go
definitely worth
spend like $20
rewatching
for
again,
like however many it is. So
for sure.
yeah.
I know one that I would definitely do with that is Eureka. Have you ever seen that one?
Nope.
I've heard of it. But I
It's
haven't
pretty
seen it.
solid, honestly. It's this federal agent. I think he was like Department of Defense, maybe. No. He's just federal, Homeland Security, I think. But he ends up going to, I think it's in Oregon, this little town called Eureka, and it's secretly this like top secret kind of science place. So it's a science facility, and like geniuses are there because like Einstein founded it and everything, and like it's super technologically advanced, but he's just like a normal dude, and he ends up being the sheriff of the town, and so he has to go out and fix all these super sciencey problems, but
Weird.
Nice.
he has like very common knowledge, but oftentimes that's what they need. They're just like, hey, but like, what if we did this with that? And they're just like, okay, yeah, no, that would work, and then they do it, and then it's usually how the problem works out. It's one of those where it's got the trope of pretty much every episode, but it's good. It's
Right.
written pretty well.
Right. How many seasons of that is there?
There's 5.
I have to start thinking about that. I didn't usually like question how many seasons there are once I started a show. I was just like, if that sounds cool, I'll start watching it, and if I don't want to watch it anymore, I'll stop. But now I have to like be careful about how much there is because I'm gonna end up binging it for like a month.
for a long time, and then
Yeah.
it's like you just commit yourself to that. Like, I thought Supernatural was really cool,
Oh my gosh.
but that's just going off the deep end at this point. I think, if I remember reading it right, I think
Big
they're
oof.
13 or 14 is where they're at right now.
I think
It's like,
13 is gonna be their last season.
Yeah.
I want to say.
Everything I've
should
heard
be.
about I made it like maybe 4 or 5 episodes into the first season
yeah.
until I dropped it because I heard various reviews about it, and especially now, like to think that it's, I don't know, a big turnoff for a show for me is like if it just keeps going, like if it has more than like 200 episodes or it has more
yeah.
than like 10 seasons, I'm like, okay, we got a problem here.
It should have gotten like 5 seasons, honestly. Like I think it was about season 5 was the really good ending, pretty much. That they could have just left it at that, and they could have just gone back to being hunters, or they could have stopped. But
I'm only in season 4, so shush.
well, I mean, like Well, that's not exactly how it is. I mean, like that's just like a good. They had like the opportunity that they could go either way.
So if I were to stop at season 5, I would be okay.
I believe so. I mean, it's somewhere around there. It's like 4 to 6, somewhere in there is
Okay.
where, because like afterwards, the whole series and like each season gets kind of tropey, and like, you
Right.
can see you're just like, okay, so this is what it is, and then you're just kind of waiting through filler till you get to the season finale, really.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it's like,
Yeah, most of the numbers that I've heard, like I've talked to a bunch of people that watch it, and they're mostly like, okay, season 6 is kind of when it drops off of being good. So
yeah, and like it doesn't really start picking up till like towards the end of 10.
okay,
And like I heard 11 picks up again, and like actually is pretty good, and like 11 and 12 was pretty good, but
Okay.
after that it's like, But then there's also like some filler stuff that actually is kind of important.
right.
So like, yeah, it's kind of like,
Okay, one of the best TV shows of all time. Don't argue with me on this. Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I'm not gonna argue with you on that.
That
'Cause
crap
that's a
is
true statement.
so good.
I haven't seen it.
You gotta
all the way-
watch it.
all the way through.
Like it's, I was very hesitant about it. I started watching it a while ago. It was a long time ago, but I was very hesitant because I don't like anime type. I don't get into that like at all. There's like 2 shows that I watch that are
Anti-weeb.
yeah. I'm just
Anti-weeb.
like I'm just not gonna even touch that because it's all weird crap. But like the Avatar: Last Airbender and Ruby. Have you ever heard of that?
Mhm.
I love Ruby.
Yeah.
Ruby's really good. And I mean, like, they're just more like kind of 3D animation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
like I saw this post once that was talking about it's like, it was categorizing them, and it was just like, this is anime, this is cartoons. These are anime that aren't really anime, and it had Avatar
Right.
and Ruby in it. And it was
Yeah.
just like, it's very anime influenced,
Yeah.
but it's like a totally different animation style.
There's like the meme where it's like Luke Skywalker or Anakin going to like the Jedi Council, Mace Windu being, and then like the text, Avatar: The Last Airbender is over Anakin, and then Mace Windu's like the anime community, and Mace Windu's
yeah.
like, we're gonna allow you to, sit upon the council of S+ children's cartoons, but we do not grant you the title of anime.
Yeah. That's basically where it sits. Did you ever watch, so you've watched Avatar all the way through?
Oh yeah.
Did you watch Korra?
I watched part of Korra. I never really finished it, but I think I
Honestly,
the rest of
about
it's
halfway
spoiled for
through
me.
season 1 is as far as you need to watch. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
no, I got-
as
Yeah.
somebody who really likes the first show,
Yeah.
that's
Aren't
about
there
as far
3
as you need to go.
seasons?
I think there's 4.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I think I got part of the way through season 2. I might have finished season 2. I don't remember.
actually, I think by the end of season 2 really is okay for the Korra storyline. 3 and 4 is like,
Yeah.
not really that important to the whole universe.
Right.
But I also heard recently, I don't know if you know about the comic books that they put out recently, the writers.
I had a couple of them when I was younger, but it was just the Avatar one. They had like the little like the books. Yeah.
So, I know they've put out a whole lot of them of, I think one was called like The Search or something. They've put out like 9 books that happen like right after the Avatar series.
Oh.
And so it just kind of follows them after that and like kind of destabilizing the conflict with all the like other countries in the Fire Nation. And just being like, look, we're not the Fire Nation we used to be, and like
Right.
they're going around trying to get rid of all the old stuff, kind of like old Germany in like 1950s.
Right.
So
Right.
just being like,
Trying to deal with that.
uncanny.
we're bad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, no, that's really good. I also heard that some of the original writers are going back and they're redoing the series as live action.
Whoa,
But like it's going to be
what?
the original writers too. That's the only reason I'm like,
Maybe.
because Shyamalan messed up the movie. It was
like,
terrible.
I felt the stabbing pain in my chest when you said that because of the movie. It just it burned me.
Yeah, no. So,
So
I heard
badly
that
for the
that they were
show.
doing a live action one, and I was like, come on, let it rest.
Yeah.
After what you guys did with the
Yeah.
movie, like you
just,
can't keep
just
doing
don't ruin
this.
it anymore. You know?
But I'd heard that some of the original writers were going to be on that, and I was like, it's got a chance,
See,
but I don't know.
With things like this, I just gotta like have someone that's a fan of it watch it before me, and if they come out of it wanting to kill themselves, then I'm just not
Like,
gonna
yeah,
go for
no,
it.
no go, because
Just
it's just like it's not worth your time
Yeah.
at that point.
Because
Like,
I just don't want to ruin that thing that's like so important to like to my childhood is like watching.
Yeah.
It and, like
like I haven't even actually seen the movie, but like
You're not missing.
People who are fans and have said it are
you
like,
don't have to.
this was bad. They did this. This is what they did, and this is also what they did. I'm like, okay, well, so this movie is garbage.
It's trash. Yeah.
I also heard in an interview, Shyamalan was like, hey, we're gonna make Toph, and we're gonna make her C, and I'm like, no, you can't do that. That's literally not her character.
Just don't do that.
There's a reason Toph is Toph, and she's blind.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. Very key things to her character. Don't mess with it.
Yeah. It's like,
It was rough. Yeah.
but I kind of look forward to seeing it. I'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But like, I'll probably watch like the first 2 episodes at least.
Yeah.
Just to
Yeah,
give
just
it a chance.
Yeah.
For people who are listening and are like either completely lost or just out of the loop, I don't know. Like we honestly don't have anything specific to talk about in today's episode, so like we kind of just bounce around. One thing I do like, all this talk about like really super awesome tiered cartoons, like makes me think of the Clone Wars. And then I don't know, the question I kind of want to ask is like, what are you guys' thoughts on the state of Star Wars right now as a universe, I guess?
Well,
we have to start referring to things as universes nowadays.
Because it's just like
The
there's
Star Wars universe, the
full
Lord of the Rings
series.
universe, the
Oh yeah.
Marvel
So much more to
universe.
that.
all that stuff.
Personally, I think at this point, Star Wars is just kind of riding almost purely on nostalgia, and those who haven't seen the previous episodes are probably like liking this more. They're just like, oh, this is pretty cool and whatnot. But like, I'm sure if they went back and watched this, and they'd probably be like, I don't know how I feel about the new ones now. Because I mean, like, I watched the old ones.
Right.
I love the old ones.
And I think that's the stance that most people find themselves in. And the way that I've enjoyed the movies the most is just kind of dissociating it a little bit in my mind. Is not thinking that it's like completely separate, but just kind of trying to stay in the moment and like watching this movie for what it is. You know?
Yeah, and like as the movies themselves, they're okay. Like they're not too bad. Like I know episode 8 was like they tried a little too hard to be funny through most of it.
Yeah.
And so they kind of killed the mood and kind of general, kind of like how we were saying in Endgame, how it's a very serious movie overall, but they had little humor spots. I think 8 tried to stretch those humor spots
Way too much. Yeah.
and it just
Like
one
kind
of
of
the
characters that they've introduced too are just kind of
It's weird.
they're kind of
Yeah.
bland and they don't have any
Weird.
like mystery and or really like a fully developed character.
Yeah,
I'm
a
sure
lot of
that they're
it,
gonna
I think
get
it was
more
just
into
kind of
it,
like
but-
thrown in for diversity's sake.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just to be like, hey, we have Asian actors, we have black actors,
Yeah.
we have somebody who's white but not American or something like that.
Yeah.
And they just don't really flush that out. They just kind of did it so that way people
don't
who
get
were
yelled at.
who were looking to pick this movie apart wouldn't have at least that to pick apart.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I see that as like a serious problem in Hollywood. There's like this thing that's been being debated over in the EU for a long time, which is like mandatory diversity in films, which is absolutely ridiculous. And the one card that everybody like that works in film or is like against, like, let's cast every single nationality that we can into our movies is like, well, how does this affect biopics
Yeah.
and stuff like that? Like, if there's going to be a mandatory quota, I guess that's what that sounds like a
kinda what it
horrible word,
seems
but
like.
it's what it seems like. Like, if there's going to be a mandatory quota of different ethnicities within your film, like, how is that going to affect like when Winston Churchill is played by a Mexican guy?
Yeah, something like that. It's like, plus it's like
weird.
depends on the whole genre and the idea of like what movie you're doing. Like if you're playing,
Right.
if you're doing something like England World War II, specifically that, there's not a whole lot of diversity there
Right.
because there wasn't a whole lot of diversity.
Correct.
But if you're doing like some semi-futuristic like scientific thing where they're like in Antarctica and they're doing stuff and like something along the lines of like Alien or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can throw in a couple of different ones because then you have scientists from different countries and that works out. But
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, it's really hard to fit that into a storyline. It just doesn't fit.
Right. And it feels like it just seems to be something super hard for people to pull into like a modern day scenario. Like people, I don't know, you talk about representation as a whole. Every movie nowadays has to have a gay character in it.
Yeah,
Every
for
movie
sure.
has to have a black dude or a Latino man.
It's just gotta.
Well,
It's just gotta.
to counter that just a little bit is I think that kind of diversity is a lot more common, and,
Oh, yeah.
and we're kind of moving into that where I mean, we don't have to have so much diversity in movies, but I think that we're finding talent in so many more areas,
Yeah.
and people are more open to seeing the talent that's
Oh, yeah.
not just
And that
like,
that was a big thing we
white.
talked about a year ago when we brought up Black Panther, about how like it felt like we were just watching a regular movie, but
Yeah.
just the whole show was run and acted with black dudes,
Yeah, almost
with black people.
It's like almost entirely a black cast, right?
Yeah,
and they're like two
Because
white
it's
dudes.
like
pretty much.
whoever you see in the base when they're there to. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Civil War.
It's like Martin Freeman and Andy Serkis.
Yeah, like it's just those two, and then because everybody else is.
How did I
we'll call
forget
him-
Martin Freeman's name?
I always want to call him Morgan Freeman because I always remember M
Yeah.
and Freeman, and so I'm
Right.
Pretty
like,
much.
well,
Yeah.
But yeah, like I don't know why is it. I mean, yeah, we're discovering talent in all these places, but I mean, I think it's definitely kind of wrong just to have people
just there
be
just
part of a
because
show
they are.
just because.
Right.
Yeah, and like if you find somebody who is like a black actor or somebody from like say China or something like that, like who is a good actor, like cast them all you want. Like it's great because when it comes to movies and stuff like that, you want good acting,
Yeah.
and if you can get that from anybody, then that's the minimum requirement to put them in a movie, pretty much.
Yeah.
Right.
As a bit of background for what I'm about to say, like for those listening, last winter we tried to as a film team. We were all still in school. We tried to. There's a script that I've been working on for years, and it finally got done. And we'd been talking about it year after year. Like we were going to film it. It was going to be like a full-on
gonna be
motion
dope.
picture. And last winter we really went all out and we gave it our best shot, quite honestly. And we were going to try to put it in the theater and stuff, but we ended up not being able to film most of it. And
that was due to people not being available, and then also the weather wasn't super.
That was really
it's
hard to
very
work around because there was a lot of times that we were just like, hey, we've got a couple weeks to film like the majority of this. Where's the snow? But
Yeah.
there like wasn't any snow.
correct, yeah. But anyway, yeah. So that was our project last year, and we were hoping that was going to be a big first step as a company and at least make a little bit of money. Obviously, that didn't work out. But anyway, one of the things that I was worried about is the simple fact that we had maybe two people working on the film with us that weren't completely white. And
Yeah.
just to like establish some more background, we live in Utah, and so there's a lot of white people.
Definitely.
And I mean, it's not even just Utah. There are a lot of states that are mostly white people, and I would hate
Huge
for
numbers.
like, and this is one of the things that I have the bigger problems with is I would hate for kids that are starting out that are starting to work into the industry, kind of like we are, and they get forced to use what they have and then get shouted at it because
Yeah.
like I would see it as a nightmare scenario if we took it to film and then even like if we entered it into like Sundance or whatever, and then it totally just gets shouted at because we didn't have any diversity.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't have any available. Sorry,
we
but
did our
that's
best
but
we
that's
had.
real life, and I feel like that's a portion of Hollywood and of life right now that people are missing is like you don't understand what diversity necessarily means for certain people in certain areas. Like I understand like global diversity. I mean, if we were to take things to like global diversity and people were really, really strict about it, half the people that we have in the movies would be Asian, and then a lot of them would be African, and then there would be like maybe one person in every movie that's actually white.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So it's always just kind of a regional thing. It's kind of like I was saying, storyline wise, with like whatever you're trying to write the movie on.
Right.
That's what depends on it. It's like it's also just where you film and what kind of like company you are. Because like if you have enough money and you can pay an actor from Europe to come over, then they will. But
True.
And I think that it's and mostly what people get angry about is that the lack of diversity in bigger films. Like, I don't think that
Right.
people would be very upset about like something that we put out being non-diverse, because
That's true.
that's just like the group of people that we hang out with and are willing to kind of like do the filming that we're doing. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, and like something like Endgame, you definitely have to have some diversity in there because, I mean, I'm not sure where that necessarily comes from either. Like, if it's not for the art's sake, is it? Like, I don't know. My thought process here is, like, why do people complain about a lack of diversity why would they complain for something that big? Is it just, and even for smaller things, is it just like, are people trying to, I guess, kind of speak out for people that try and join the field? Like, are they upset that people aren't working? And if so, I mean, the people that are acting on screen are a small portion compared. Like, go watch Avengers Endgame. You watch the credits for like 15 minutes. They're crazy long. And I bet, like, I mean, you can just tell by the names, a lot of the people on there are definitely people that aren't white.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, like, or is it like, I don't know, we don't have people on the big screen that are, I guess, representing heroicism and like power, I guess, or even like in older films when foreigners, not even just necessarily people of different skin colors, but like just people of different ethnicities were portrayed as villains. Like, I mean, the Germans have been villains forever. The Russians have been villains forever.
yeah,
Yep.
And like, I don't know, it's an interesting kind of thing because, like, I don't know why. I don't know. People at home kind of weigh in with yourself and then maybe comment as well. Why do you think people are upset, or why are you personally upset about a lack of diversity, if there is? Because I could definitely understand it, because I would be not frustrated if like white people completely disappeared off of the silver screen,
We've
but
all
I'd
done
be
some pretty
definitely confused. And I mean, I'm speaking as a white male, and so
yeah. All a bunch of white dudes being like, down with the white men.
Yeah.
yeah, for real.
Yeah.
And so like I'm not really in a position to say like I don't know what it would be like, because I haven't faced years of oppression and generations upon generations of like being downtrodden, and so I have no idea what really I can say about that at all. But
Yeah, I think that people are just against, not the actual amount of like if there's amount of diversity on the screen. It's just whether or not the people that are in charge of that said film are being racist in a way and trying to only cast certain people. Like if you have people audition and you choose the one that is better, and the one that is better acting and better is going to work better with your team is going to be someone of diverse origin, then totally fine. If it happens to be someone that's white, then you're totally fine. As long as that doesn't affect your decision, right?
right.
Yeah.
And that's, but see, that's another problem too, because like you think about, like I'll use this example real quick. Like back when pop music was like first a thing, a lot of, I mean, I guess when it came out around the East Coast or whatever, there are like some documentaries that I'd probably have to watch or do some research to like fully be able to talk about stuff like this. But like when pop music was first coming out, it was mostly white people doing it. And eventually, like I'm thinking about this one story where there was like a blackout in New York, like in an area of New York City or someplace, and then because of that blackout, there was a lot of looting and stuff. And then like a couple months or like a year later, all these African American pop albums start coming out because all this equipment had been looted from these different places in town. And like just to kind of relate that, I don't know, in choosing talent over diversity, that's something that I don't necessarily see a whole lot of, or at least I see like people having a problem with that, like because some people don't have access to certain training, to certain environments or whatever, then that would be like the excuse to be like, okay, then they should star in the film and kind of give a voice to those people, and then because their ethnicity or that kind of past or background has been exposed to the field, then we can do that to like the rest of them. But I don't know, it's weird to think about, but like I don't know, just in taking skill over ethnicity or past or whatever, like I don't know, I can see where some people would have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you can. What's really good with that is then, like, once you get a lot more actors like that, and as people push for more diversity and whatnot, then you kind of get that. It's kind of supply and demand, and so more movies start making like almost entirely black casts. Like Hamilton was really good for musical wise, and they're just like, we're gonna do this with an all black cast because everybody in this time period historically was white.
Yeah.
Like the epitome of white, pretty much.
Make a commentary and like,
yeah.
And then there's just that supply and demand, and so then more of that, or I guess race is probably, don't want it to sound terrible, but like more of the people who kind of fit that stereotype in a good way, like start to go out and apply themselves more, which is good. And so then more of them kind of get a hold of the equipment, and like it's kind of like the creative process, like how we push for schools to do more arts kind of classes, how not a lot of people are really into the sciencey stuff but are really into the art stuff,
right.
But they just don't really have that outlet to figure that out.
Yeah, right.
And so it's always really good to do that. And so by, I guess, kind of letting it happen, it's always kind of good for the industry, but it's just that with asking for more representation kind of makes me think of, I guess, radical feminism, as I call it. It's like some of the stuff that they talk about, it's good stuff. Like, there is a lot of stuff that we should change about the way we treat females just in the industry and stuff.
Yeah.
But some of the lengths that they take it to, it's too far.
Right.
It's just the way to be that aggressive totally ruins it. Like, nobody takes you seriously because then it's just, all right, you're just here to be aggressive. You're not here for change. You're here for what you want.
I don't watch live TV a whole lot. It sounds like a Dos Equis commercial. Like I don't watch a lot of live TV. But when I do, I see, like, whenever a commercial comes on, or when the commercials come on, or even watching YouTube, like watching advertisements, I see a lot more like progressive and like not necessarily diversity, but like for women, I see a lot more action stancing, like they've got the power, like kind of promotional, like I don't know, just the general idea of these commercials is like it's promotional for women, I guess.
Yeah, and like they do it pretty good with like bringing up the women but not putting down men. Yeah, it's tasteful.
And I think when it comes to like kind of both of these issues, I think it comes down to that we're kind of on the like in the grand scheme of things, we're kind of on the forefront of this kind of thing. We're still pushing for rights for everybody. We're trying to push for equality, and that's kind of in the grand scheme of things. That's a little bit of a new issue that we're having to face as a society, and I think that it's the people's attitudes that we're trying to fix. And that sometimes doesn't work because the people that are on the other side of this of these issues of feminism and just equality for everybody is that they're very stubborn and they're not going to really change their mind. They're like mostly old white men. So I think that when it comes down to it, like being very aggressive about those kinds of things isn't the way to do it. It's just to act the way that you think is right, and then wait for the people who aren't right to just kind of die off. So that sounds really bad, but I think what we're just trying to do is change our society, and that's...
No, go ahead.
Well, it's kind of like an evolutionary thing, so to speak. Like it doesn't happen overnight. Like
right.
You got to have that long progress. And like I was thinking about it, like the way we are now, just kind of as a society, is we're just like, okay, well, everybody's equal because we're all humans. We get that. Right. But like hundreds of years ago with like the Civil War, Revolutionary War, and all that stuff was the tail end of like almost every major superpower of the world being like a monarchy.
Yeah.
It's just like a king being okay, I'm above everybody sort of thing, or like your status made you important.
Right.
Now we're just like, okay, you being a human being makes you important,
Right.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so like we're all kind of coming to terms to that, and so each generation is taught basically the same things, and then they progress themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of where we're at right now. Is we're starting to leave behind the position makes you who you are sort of thing,
Yeah.
and moving into like you being a person, like your actions
Right.
speak louder than who you are, sort of thing.
And kind of like backtracking a little bit, I have absolutely no problem with people like. Like one of the things about film and music and TV and any of the arts in general that like really bugs me is people do not see it as that, and so they get really upset at something that they is supposed to be a social commentary or is supposed to be an artistic rendering basically of how someone
Right.
sees the world, and so I have no problem if people like make like Hamilton and
Oh yeah,
pull a complete irony chain there or whatever, but like I don't know, like, does it seem like this push for changes and stuff is happening too fast, and like are certain people giving people whiplash? Because I feel that's like from certain people
That's
we're
kind of part
definitely
of it.
getting some whiplash.
yeah, I know, like because that's kind of how our two most recent generations kind of are. Like, it's just been totally different. Like the whole meme of like, oh, these darn millennials doing all this thing, and just like millennials have such different ideals for the world.
Yeah. And you think that's all because of the internet, or like what other grand? I don't know. I guess evolutionary changes happened in the last 40 years that would warrant such craziness.
I wouldn't say that. And it's in my opinion, I think that it can't happen fast enough. Like
Yeah.
there's no there's no such thing as going too fast when it comes to like social progression. You know, like it's gonna happen, and we're trying to just make things. We're trying to make our world a better place. We're trying to make our society a better place, and I think that these are just issues that we haven't found important up until now,
Yeah.
and I mean, we're all white men here, and our area of society has been on top for
Yeah.
so long, and we've been kind of, and I think that we're just trying to come together as a society. That sounds really hippie and peace and love,
but like honestly, in some ways, the more that I've like heard that kind of stuff, like hippies, in some ways, some of their ideals weren't wrong. It's kind of like I was saying, like feminism, but then like there's radical feminism.
yeah,
Like the ideals themselves aren't terrible, but it's
the way
some of
that
the
people
lengths
go
that a
about
lot of people
Yeah.
will take it.
And that's what I mean by like people going too fast, or like people
Yeah.
giving people whiplash. Because like all these, I don't know, just all the podcasts and all the interviews that I listen to, a lot of people were bringing up a lot of good points about how like the outrage nowadays it just keeps growing and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and so it becomes a huge problem. And like one of the biggest problems I have, and one of the reasons I might not even go to college is just because of how universities are just a hot spot of like really I guess just SJW.
That's kind of where it is.
Malarkey, anarchy.
Anarchy.
I don't know.
Anarchy is not too bad of a word for that, but
I don't know. Just like one of the things that's always perplexed me is how I don't know, like where along the line do human beings forget what their parents teach them? Like especially for kids like us or like older, where you're raised on live the golden rule, share what you have, like the things you're taught in elementary school, basically, where you're like look twice before you cross the road, like really simple stuff that your parents teach you, and then like being kind to each other, don't hit each other, and then like where along the road do people just forget that, and then and just drop it off.
Or does it become very personal?
Yeah.
Like,
And then the problem, and then that leads into the problem with universities is like people just keep forgetting all this stuff and they forget to live it, and then they get thrown in with literally thousands of other hormone infused children that are trying to make it on their own as well, and so they form this really, really weird amalgam of ideals, and people coming from all over the world. Like, I mean, just like
So what do you
everywhere.
mean by the like people forgetting what their parents like? Do you think that that's happening a lot, or that people's parents just aren't? Some people's parents aren't teaching them these kinds of things.
Well, kind of both. So like I feel, especially like I look at older generations, and I look at people who, even things that aren't necessarily like, I mean, it's bad. Like, you shouldn't smoke, but like kids that have been raised, at least by parents that didn't smoke. Because I mean, if you get raised by parents that smoke, you'll probably end up smoking.
we probably yeah.
But like the kids that didn't have parents like that told them don't smoke or don't do drugs, and then they get into it, and then other stuff like you got to share, you got to be kind, don't yell at people, like just the very basic ideals that as a parent, if you're a good parent, you teach your kids to do or not to do, and then for some reason, like grown adults that I see have just forgotten that somewhere along the way.
I think it's like it's kind of, for me personally, I know moving out for the first time in my life and like living on my own, it totally changes your mindset. Like you're a different person when you're not on your own, or when you are on your own, I should say. Yeah. And I think a lot of, especially because college, because that's just kind of the stereotype of a college student, is you're not living at home anymore.
Right.
A lot of them are, I guess, not so much a sense of power, but like a sense of freedom. Like, they get to figure out who they are now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will do what they want and say what they want because, like, the only person responsible is them. And a lot of times I feel like people don't think about their consequences for what they say or do.
Yeah. Especially, like, well, not especially, but, like, sometimes when you obtain that freedom or, like, you just get that kind of taste of you're in charge now.
Yeah.
That like some people just take it and run with it, but then as well, like the other side where it's like where you ask, like, do parents not, or like are they not teaching that nowadays? I think that's also kind of true, because like just how many, like when I was raised in Alaska, which was kind of tech deficient, not deficient, but like
you just didn't really have it.
Well, no, they had it, and I mean it's super weird. Like it's such a weird place because like the middle school there.
Maybe not
was
like dependent.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
I could say that.
Yeah, because like everybody's raised on people that go out and hunt for food or have done farming or they're doing hard labor and stuff like that. That doesn't necessarily require that. Mm-hmm. And then there's just kind of this weird shift because I remember when I was 12 years old. So I would have been, no, maybe I was like 11 years old. And I was in 6th grade. Let's see, when did the first iPhone come out? That was like...
Ooh, that was like...
2005? No, that's way too early. 2008?
No, my first iPhone was 2003.
Really?
Yeah, no, it was quite a ways. I remember I was in elementary.
Okay.
When I...
Yeah, well, you guys are looking it up. I'll just keep talking. But yeah, like, when I remember I was... the rule in my house was, like, wait until you're 12 before you get a phone.
It's not a bad rule.
Yeah, especially, like, that's what it's going to be for my kids. Like, jeez. And I remember there was, like, maybe a few kids that had phones in my grade as well. And those kids were either, like, super jocks and, like, the worst. or they were just kids that came from, like, privileged homes. But, like... And then I remember moving here in 2007. Dang.
Yeah.
That was 12 years ago, guys. Jeez.
Mm.
You want something big? The Dark Knight came out 10 years ago.
Wait, what?
11 years ago. My bad.
Oh, what is it? SpongeBob is 20 years old?
Oh.
Yeah, that stuff. Like
that started in 99, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was kind of crazy. I'm trying to think of something else that was.
Yeah. Anyway, but I just look at kids nowadays, and every single kid in elementary school has a phone now. Not even just like an iPod or something, but an actual phone.
No,
Yeah.
like phone.
And so
pretty crazy.
and I just kind of look at parents nowadays and grown adults that can't bother to cross the street without looking at their phone.
Yeah.
And they use the technology as a babysitter. And so I feel like that's one of the huge things. Like, I don't know, I feel like the kids that are in elementary school right now are going to be like extremely decisive because they're being raised in this be really acceptable, like accept everybody and everything. But then as well, like there's no guard. I don't know. I just find a huge problem with parents using the technology as a babysitter, or even giving that stuff to just little kids to play games on all day. Like it's not good for you.
And we're kind of on the tail end of like kind of our generation that are like becoming adults and
Right.
like eventually becoming a parent really soon, basically. Having been so dependent on technology for our lives, like at this point, I've had a phone for like 5 or 6 years,
Yep.
Yeah.
and like that totally changes it. Like I'm not too bad with it, but there's definitely times that I'm just like, okay, I need to put this thing down. I've had
Yeah.
it for a while.
Right, and I think the thing is that like we use technology to our advantage, whatever that means to whoever, but it doesn't affect how we interact with other people. I think that is where the line needs to be drawn. Is if you are letting a child have access to a screen too early, that's going to affect their social life.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
definitely.
And sometimes that's just the way that people are. Some people aren't they don't socialize as easily or as well. But I think that once you start to affect whether or not people want to socialize because they could be on their phone instead, that's where you gotta draw the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know it's really easy. It's a totally different way to socialize online because there is that is kind of a social thing. Like I know that for sure. Like personally, when I was down in Ephraim for college, every time I would go to play games, everybody that I wanted to play with lived up here.
Yeah.
So like I had to go through the internet to socialize with these friends of mine, and so like it's good, and like that's another really good thing of the internet is you can connect with people forever away, but how that affects being one-on-one kind of like this, like I'm all for staying at home and playing video games all day, but but to physically be here and to record a podcast, I've always kind of thought this was a cool idea because like not sometimes you have conversations that are just like this. It was a good night, and you look back on that and you remember it really well.
Yeah.
But nobody recorded it because you were kind of in the moment. Like that's like a totally different thing about being in the moment. But letting your technology influence the way that you talk one-on-one and like how willing you are to just kind of sit here and to just not do anything. I mean, like me personally, I'm just kind of a fidgety person myself.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just I'll just mess with my phone, like flip it. I'll mess with my pop socket a lot.
Oh yeah.
But I don't ever really turn it on that much when I'm in something like this.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, it doesn't, if it's not contributing, like how we Googled stuff, like if it's not contributing to that, then I feel no need to pull it out personally.
Yeah.
And so like to start them off real young and to let that influence how they first think about going to like interact with somebody or to do something is like, okay, well, first I got to get on my phone or I got to get on the internet real quick to just set anything out, to plan this out. And then it kind of messes with that. Like, messaging's good.
Yeah, because that becomes their whole world. They don't get social cues from staring at a screen for too long. And like I feel like, me personally, I feel like we have a serious boredom crisis on our hands.
Oh,
because being bored is good for you. It's really good for you. And as a kid, like that's what drives you to become so imaginative and creative. Like I look at my own younger siblings and I'm like, they don't nearly play as many fun pretend games outside. I don't know, I certainly don't pretend or do anything super weird. And that could be contributed to the fact that if your attention is drawn somewhere else. Like, I know, for me, some of the best ways that I come up with stories when writing is by mostly by listening to music.
Yeah.
But then, because honestly, I think I get more ideas from music than I get from anything else. But then as well, just being able to sit down and like stare into space for like a good 20 minutes or whatever is like immensely beneficial for your health.
Oh, yeah.
I think as long as you don't go to those dark places.
Yeah, it's a little common, especially for us, where it just becomes existential. That's my thing.
We go there
personally, because like depression runs a little bit through my family and whatnot, and so it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I don't know if I'm bored or if I'm just depressed, and like whether I'm bored making me kind of like, oh man, like I've got nothing to do with my life. My life's kind of sad, sort of thing, or like. I'm like, man, I just don't feel like doing anything, and just kind of like in a mood, and like that makes me bored because I don't want to do anything.
Right.
And it's just like it kind of goes back and forth, and I know that's a big thing for us. But to actually sit down and just kind of like think for a little bit is always kind of good.
Yeah,
kind
like
of put your
sit
priorities
down on the front porch in the rocking chair like for no reason. Like that's good for you.
To take it in. Like that was one of my favorite things, and one thing I kind of planned on doing more was. The apartment I was in had these porches, and I was like, I'll go sit out on this little balcony and hang out, maybe bring my guitar, jam for a little bit.
Survey your empire.
My empire, yeah. But to take the time to just relax, like stargazing is one of my favorite things,
right?
Because it's just there's no there's no effort that really needs to be put in. It's just you're there, you appreciate it, you just look at it.
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about like different jobs. Like we met up yesterday and we talked about like jobs where you just get into the same rhythm and then you just like how you put it, like shower thoughts just come to your head and you're like just in a rhythm. You don't even have to think about it. You just go through the motions and you can just like think endlessly about whatever.
Yeah, I think so much of my life has been spent doing those like monotonous.
Yeah.
Monotonous.
Yeah.
Tasks that are just like, and I've just been in my own head for a long period of time. That's good to a certain extent, but then you get to a point where you're like,
I don't want to do this anymore.
what is God? Like,
you start asking the real questions because there's no like regular questions to ask.
Exactly,
anymore.
and it doesn't. You get like more in you. You get that little bit of a time to reflect on yourself. Like most of the time, I'm thinking about like what I'm doing during the day and like what my plans are for the week. But then you start like thinking about you, and you start thinking about like where you're at mentally and where you're going. Right. And it's kind of cool to kind of self-reflect. And I think that for me, that happens mostly when I'm outdoors and when
I agree with that.
That's my healing place is when I like just go out into the woods and like go camping.
You gotta go camping sometime.
Oh man, that like.
See, that's how I am. It's like a good camping trip, like once a month. I kind of almost need that. Like it's good. I'm not crazy about staying out in the woods for 2 weeks at a time.
Exactly.
Exactly. Because at just one point you're just like, I need a heater. I need a blanket. I need a bed. I'm done sleeping on the ground.
Yeah.
But to
like those weekend camping trips.
Oh yeah, weekends. Where you take like
for,
one or 2 days, and you're just like
get a break
this is
from
the
everything. Just kind of.
The older I get, the more I realize how much I hate overnight camping trips. Because it's like, if I'm not going to stay here and make camp, like, I don't know, the deal is you spend all night, you enjoy it, and then you wake up and you're like, let's
have to clean everything.
Like, skip breakfast, let's go.
Yeah, because like then everybody sleeps late, and you're just like,
It's pretty much just like a sleepover, but in the woods, is with those overnight camping trips.
Yeah,
like those ones that we did in Green Canyon, where you're just like don't even sleep. You're just like hanging out, playing poker, doing whatever.
Oh yeah, those are good. And then
what was that? Didn't we? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Wasn't there like a knife game that we played that one time where we were throwing stuff? And what was this?
Yeah. We were playing like hot potato.
Hot potato with knives?
Or like don't let the thing touched the ground with like a knife, and we would toss in a water bottle.
Oh, that's what it was. Crap. We were all holding knives, and we were like, I had my
smart.
It was almost like
and you had your
it definitely.
It's more like
my pocket
more
knife.
like playing catch with like a bat, and you're just like tossing it. It's like ping pong without a table.
I think we were just seeing like who could skewer it the best, or otherwise just keep knocking it in the air.
Yeah.
But
it was-
I mean,
that was
like
fun.
that
Weird board stuff.
I guess that kind of falls under the whole like introspective, take a moment to just kind of whatever. Like that's pretty mindless, even in itself. Like
For real.
how
It's just like-
you know you got hand eye, but like at the same time you're just like okay, smack it, stab it, throw it.
Yeah.
It's like, why do people love sports so much? You get to literally sit down and watch something happen. You don't have to do anything.
You're just like that. That's
And then you watch
literally
these
all the
guys
effort.
throw a ball around. It's like, wow!
Oh, you enjoy that, but like but so many people enjoy that, and like that's a good thing. And
Yeah.
you know, TV shows like we're talking about initially, and movies.
Yeah.
Just sitting and watching is a really good thing because then like you're not putting physical effort; it's all mental. That's what's really good too.
Yeah.
Is that if you kind of go back to the whole technology spiel of like if you just kind of like let it, like that's all it is like you're just kind of reacting between you and the device and everything, and like then that it becomes that monotonous pattern of every day. You just kind of go there and be like, all right, let's see what interaction I'm gonna have with whatever's on the screen today,
Yeah.
and like you're just kind of like waiting basically.
Yeah. I think you should be
Speaking
able
of
to
which,
learn.
I think I'm on Town Hall level 7 at Clash of Clans.
Dude, as
Dang.
soon as I think I got to level 6, and I was like, you want me to wait 4 days for you to upgrade my
Yeah.
town hall to level 7? I'm done.
yeah.
Because like you can't do, because that's all that game is like, okay, saving up the resources until I can upgrade, and then you're waiting for the upgrade to be done, and then
I never bought
I
that game
was right on. I'm on
specifically
Clash.
for these reasons.
yeah.
But anyway, like I think like that monotony can sometimes, like, it has to be, I don't know, how do I phrase this? Like, it has to be achieving a goal, like, within itself. Like, I don't see someone sitting down and binging The Office for the first or even, like, the third time to be a bad thing.
No.
But, like, when I see or when I hear people that sit down and watch Family Feud all day, I'm like, you should probably do something else. Like,
where's the
it's Family
filler to that?
Feud. There's no real goal there.
And it's like there's no continuity to that.
There's
To watch a show is you're just like, okay, I'm starting from the beginning and I'm going to the end. Like that equivalent, of course, was
Yeah.
in ye old days when people didn't have phones and the electricity. No, a lot of times people would reread a book.
That's true.
And like that's one thing that I don't do that often because personally I feel like I wouldn't enjoy a book a second time over, and there's very few books that I've read that I'm like I could read this again.
Dude, I miss having the time to read books. I used
Yeah,
to be
for real.
the biggest bookworm. Like
Same.
I read so many books as a kid. Like
Oh.
as a teenager, that was like between the age of when I could start reading and like when high school ended was when I just
Boom. Done.
done. Like I don't think I've read a book since high school ended, and it's sad.
I've read, I think, since we
Depressed.
graduated, I think like maybe one book all the way through.
Yeah.
And like that one took me a while because like I would read it pretty much every night for a little while, and then I'd put it down for a bit and I'd kind of forget about it and just kind of get in a routine of not reading.
The only books I read was textbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
you-
not even.
You do a lot of reading and you're just like, this doesn't stick as well and
Yeah.
everything. Like I remember a lot of things from books that I enjoyed, but like a textbook, you're just like, yeah, I'm just here to.
I can't
read
do
this.
textbooks. I just zone out. I'm reading the
Yeah.
pages. I'm like, I'm just going.
I always just like all I know is that in a textbook is I kind of treat it almost like a dictionary. I'll go to the index and be like, all right, this is the word at the beginning of the sentence of the phrase that I want.
Yeah.
And then I look for where it shows up and like read like the page there and like 2 or 3 pages before and after
Yeah.
to see if I can find what I'm looking for. Because otherwise it's just like
Going.
there's just so much to take in that you can't start at the beginning and go to the end. It doesn't work. But don't do it.
We're gonna move to the ASMR version of the podcast. Everybody's gonna whisper into the mic. We're gonna do light tapping here. We're gonna pour water over the mic. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
We're just gonna
Into this trash
Crinkling
can
of the
that's right next
plastic
to us.
there. Yeah.
crinkling the plastic of it.
Yes.
Yeah. I think this podcast has been.
It's gone most places. I think it
We went very political there in the middle there.
a little
Like,
very very political. I mean, like, but my whole thought process through that was like, we started with media and kind of entertainment, and like it just moves into how the real world affects that.
Right.
And that's mostly what that was, I guess. Because, I mean, like, that's kind of still what we're commenting on. It's just, like, how society has affected our entertainment. Like, how entertaining how we entertain the idea of going on a camping trip.
Right.
Dude, what we
great.
should do, we should do segments where we just tell stories,
Yes.
Ooh.
where we, like, tell funny stories that we've had in our lives, or, like, just crazy weird things that's happened. Look forward to that next week. We're going to bring that up.
Boom.
and
We're gonna bring up some crazy stories.
We're going to have, like, segments of, like, Landon's crazy stories.
We'll
it'll be
title them.
awesome.
See, man, I'm thinking the next podcast that we do should be about mostly music, and that would be perfect because Landon and I are like
They'll
super
just
band
they'll just
people.
they'll just
So,
start into how was our band experience rated on a scale of 1 to 10.
for real.
Yeah.
Like, how was your high school band
No.
experience? Wacky. It was
Like,
awesome.
were you there when Bryson was talking about passages at the banquet last night? It was a piece that we played.
I was gonna say, I
Yeah, he
don't know
was. Yeah,
anything
because they
about
played
music.
they played it last night, and I remember saying like I remember playing it when we went to Seattle our freshman year.
Yeah.
and then we played it again. I think our junior year.
Yeah.
And I think they're just playing it every other year.
I mean, like, it's a good piece. I really enjoy
really
that
good.
piece. I love that piece. But, like, Bryson was saying he was getting kind of emotional about it. I'm like,
Passages by Michael Sweeney. Look it up.
yeah, mad popping that in the chat.
What?
I switched into, like,
just started making
Twitch
words.
lingo.
Yeah.
But, no, that song, personally, for me, was freshman year, that was Seattle. And that was, like, our first, like, real big performance. Because it was a competition.
That Seattle trip, I feel. I mean, we should probably talk about this next week. But anyway, that Seattle trip, I think, was really important for a lot of people because coming out of the valley, like having never left before,
Yeah.
and especially never even being close to seeing like the real world, like Seattle is. I mean,
Oh yeah, like that was a very
was
big
huge.
culture shock for me, because I was just like, whoa, yeah, like I knew it was kind of like this, but
yeah,
dang, like my dad's been to Pike's Place a couple times because he was back when like it was still really common for them to throw salmon a lot.
yeah.
I mean, like they still kind of do it, but they don't do it as much.
Yeah.
But I mean, like that'll have to wait for our next episode when we talk about personal
I want
stories.
to keep talking about it, but yeah, we'll
See, I don't know anything about music. I can tell you about music. I
But
can't-
not, like,
I can't talk about
music.
music. Like,
Not from
Well, that's
a
why
music
we're going
store
to
in
share
my
some
house.
crazy stories, and then you can share your crazy
There you go. Yeah.
Did you go to Orlando?
Yeah.
You did go to Orlando. Yeah, well, because we talked about matching shirts and because we got the same.
We're talking
did.
about
Like,
band trip that they went
I
on.
wore my band solo and ensemble shirt when I went to the Ben Ram
I have an
concert, and I
axe.
was like, I
Man.
wish Landon were here.
If
wearing this
only
too.
Landon was here.
Anyway, we'll tell that story next time. Anyway.
We'll have to include the day the 2 days, I guess. The little time segment where we broke the curse because
That
we
was
just
so weird.
the stars aligned. That was
Awesome, though.
weird.
Anyway, yeah, we'll tell that next week. But yeah, thank you all for listening. I realized we didn't even say our names at the beginning of the podcast, which is probably beneficial.
Yeah,
So-
we can edit that in. We can
Well-
let's do the intro right now. We'll just edit it back at the beginning. Hey, welcome to the RFF podcast. My name is Matt. I'm accompanied by Kent,
What?
Kent,
Mr. Kent.
Mr. Kent.
I'm Harrison.
Let's wrap it up. let's redo
Take
it.
two.
Redo it. Take two.
Action.
You got to start it.
Okay.
You're the-
Welcome to
you're
the podcast. I'm Harrison Kent. I'm here with
Leo.
And I'm Landon.
and Landon. Yeah.
Landon the Mosby. The son, the guy, the dude, the one, the myth, the legend. I don't
Mr.
know.
Mosby.
Mr. Mosby.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Scott Sterling.
Dang it. I'm leaving now.
All right. Yeah. I think we're going to wrap that up. We'll probably try to do another one next week. And then maybe we'll just pump these out Saturday. So this might come out next Saturday after I get it edited. Otherwise, I can throw it out either Wednesday or Thursday. Whatever works best. But yeah, thank you for listening. We appreciate your support. Appreciate you listening to this stuff multiple times if you can. Give us a few extra hits.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like sharing. I mean, this is the first. You don't have to do any of this crap
Yeah, really.
because you have no idea whether you like us or not. Or if you do, then leave. But yeah, so we'll just give us a little bit of love. Tell us what you think. If you have any questions, like we love to have like a question section.
Oh, I'd love to do
at like the beginning
It's
or
always a
like
good
the
one.
end of the podcast, because that'd be awesome, and we have a lot to talk about. So
Or take
Yeah.
2 or 3 questions and dedicate like basically the whole podcast to it.
yeah, we could do that. We're not professional podcasters yet, so we'll work on that. But until then, we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Au revoir.